Welcome to the Audacity Files for those who dare to think they can. This is a space to explore the human drive, what wills us to say, yes, I can. Thank you for taking time to be with us today. In this inaugural episode, we're chatting with Bridgett Edgar of Do As I Have Done, a Texas-based nonprofit providing foot care to underserved and under-resourced communities. So let's talk about Audacity. Hello, Bridgett.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm a little bit nervous, but we're going to get through this thing.
You're not alone.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so, let's just dig right into it. Let's talk about the inspiration for this. Where did this come from? Tell us what Do As I Have Done is.
Well, we are a 501c3 nonprofit here in the Houston area. And like you said, we do provide professional foot care to underserved and under-resourced communities. We are looking to help reduce the spread of infection and disease in the community. We look for early warning signs of diabetes, heart disease, and cancer that often show up in the feet first, and a lot of people don't know that. We are doing foot health screenings. We are also looking for anyone who's in that demographic that has a problem with their feet and they need to see a podiatrist. Maybe they need diabetic footwear. Maybe they're homeless and they need shoes and clean socks or something like that in order to treat whatever their conditions are. So we're looking to help reduce the spread of infection disease, spread awareness, help reduce limb loss. There's I think it's like 80% of limb loss is due to diabetic wounds. And most of the time, limb loss starts at the bottom and kind of works its way up. It starts with your feet, your toes, your feet, and then comes your legs and just kind of works its way up. So we're looking to help reduce the occurrence of that. But also, I believe the more important underlying desire for Do As I've Done, or mission of Do As I've Done, is to demonstrate the love of Christ through compassionate foot care. The feet are important both spiritually and naturally. So the desire is to serve God by serving others. And we do that through foot care, but we use foot care to reach the whole person. So for example, if we go to an inbound senior's home and we're working on their feet and we notice that they are undernutritious or they don't have food in their pantries, or they're struggling, they let us know what their struggles are. We make sure they get connected with Meals on Wheels, for example, or if their roof is falling or they have a leak, there are organizations in the community that will come and take care of that on their behalf, but they may not know about that. So we help to make sure that everyone we serve has access to other resources that they need in order to improve their overall quality of life. But we are also there to pray for them if they need prayer. We're there for them to get them connected with churches and organizations if they feel like they're ready to take that step in that direction. So we are working to build out a discipleship program that partners with the foot care program.
Okay. So where did the seed come from? Where did the inspiration for forming this organization come from?
Well, it was about actually 5 years ago yesterday, in 2019. My kids and I were driving to Texas. We're going to spend some time with my mom and our family for Thanksgiving. And we were coming from Kansas City, and I had a really, really bad headache the whole trip. And I had migraines before, but it didn't feel like a migraine. We drove 16 hours straight through, or 14 and a half, 15 hours straight through. And when we arrived, my head was killing me. And my mom, she saw me, she took one look at me. And the first thing she said was, "Bridgett, you don't look right. Your complexion looks a little off. I think you might need to go to the doctor." And I'm like, "Oh, Mom, I'm fine. It's just a headache. It'll pass. It's not that big of a deal." So I go, yes. So I go lay down to take a nap or go to bed. The next day I get up, the headache is even worse. I had trouble sleeping that night anyhow. And she tells me again, she says, "Bridgett, I really think you need to go be looked at." And I'm like, "Mom, it's fine. I've had headaches before. It will pass. I do not want to go sit in the emergency room for 5 to 10 hours for a headache. Right. It's okay." Right. And she said, "Oh, it's okay. I got a trick for you. Since you want to be hard-headed, I'm going to tell your husband. I'm going to get your husband on you." So she did, and they tagged to me, and I went. And when I went to the emergency room the first time, they just told me, hey, it's a migraine. We're going to give you a migraine cocktail and send you on your way. So I'm like, see, I told you, Ma, it was just a headache. There was no need to worry about it. So
I don't remember. Wait a minute. I don't remember you telling me that you went multiple times.
I went twice.
Okay.
So there's a lot that I left out because the time frame that we
Gotcha.
had.
Okay. All right.
But the first time that I went, they told me it was just a migraine and they gave me a cocktail. So I took the migraine pills or whatever and I went home. Went to bed. And then the next day, the headache still was even worse. And so we go to the store to get things for Thanksgiving dinner. And it felt like in the middle of the grocery store, it felt like someone just started stabbing me in my head. So I kind of dropped a little bit and I'm like, God, what is this pain? This is really bad. She said, nope, that's it. We're going back right now. So we left the store. We go back to the hospital the next day to the emergency room. And they tried to say the same thing. We'll give you another migraine cocktail. And she insisted, and I would have accepted that, by the way. But my mom insisted. She said, no, we're not leaving until you all do something. You need to look at something. You need to run a scan, do something, but we're not leaving here until you find out what's going on, because I know something is not right. It's a good thing that she was
advocating for you.
Yes, because I would have accepted it. And so the doctor told her, well, we don't run those type of tests for the symptoms that she's presenting. She said, I don't care. We are not leaving until you do something. So to appease her, they did a CT scan. And the next thing you know, about 10 minutes after the scan, I have a nurse come in the room and she comes in, she says, Miss Edgar, I am so sorry. And I said, ma'am. She said, oh, has the doctor been in yet? I said, no, ma'am. She said, oh, he hasn't. Okay, well, just a moment. Let me go get the doctor. Maybe 15, 20 minutes pass. A second nurse comes in the room and she says, oh, Miss Edgar, I am so sorry. And I say, and my mom and I are both looking at, sorry for what? And she says, oh, you haven't seen the doctor yet? And no, ma'am. So she says, well, I can't tell you what's going on. That has to come from the doctor. So she leaves the room. Almost about a half an hour later, still no doctor has come into the room. A third nurse comes in, and this is a male nurse. He comes in and he grabs my hands and he's so compassionate. And he looks me in my eyes and he says, Miss Edgar, I am so sorry. Now I'm scared.
Right. As you should be.
Yes. And I'm like, okay, what are you sorry for? Y'all are scaring me. And he said, no doctor has come in here. And I said, no. And so I squeezed his hand so that he can't walk away. I said, please do not leave. I don't know what's going on. No one has told me anything. So he said, okay. He said, I'm not supposed to do this. He said, but we found what is called an acute subdural hematoma. And we're going to have to get you over to another hospital because there's no brain surgeons here. And I'm like, whoa, what? First of all, I didn't know what an acute subdural hematoma was. And secondly, where is brain surgery coming from? Y'all are scaring me for real now. And so he explains what that is, that it's a brain bleed. And he tells me what part of the brain it's in and all of that, or what part of my head it's in, and that I would have to have emergency brain surgery. So they were waiting for an ambulance to come get me, to take me from one hospital to the next.
But you still not seen a doctor?
I still have not seen the doctor. And I never did see the doctor at that location anymore. That doctor never did come back in the room. But I did see the doctor when I made it to the next hospital.
So they were just going to ship you off with no, oh my gosh. Okay.
Yes. So, and at the same time, I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking, are y'all looking at the right chart? Are y'all looking at the right? Because I feel I have a headache, but I'm like, is it this serious? So they call the ambulance, of course, and all of a sudden the weather gets insane. And it takes 2.5 hours for an ambulance to get there just to get me to the next hospital.
Is this during the snowstorm?
No, I'm in Texas.
Right. But you remember they had the whiteout.
This was just rain.
Oh, okay.
It was just heavy rain and accidents everywhere.
Okay.
And so when I finally get in the ambulance, it takes us 3 hours to travel less than 30 minutes away to the next hospital because of all the accidents and road closures and rain and the weather was just horrible. And it took forever to get to the next hospital. So I make it to Galveston, to the island, to the hospital that I was going to have the surgery at. And I talk to the doctors. They come in, they let me know what's going on, how the process is going to go. And I wanted to know the statistics as far as survival. Like, what is this? I wanted to know more about it. And so typically, if you have an acute subdural hematoma and you're 3 days into the bleed, first of all, you have to operate within the first 4 hours to have the best chance of survival. So I'm 3 days in to a brain bleed, and they operate, but my survival, the chances of me surviving was only 3 to 5% because of how far into the bleed I was already in, or I was already into. So I had a 95 to 97% mortality rate. And I was able to survive that, obviously, by the grace of God. And it had a huge impact. There were many things that they told me I would never be able to do again. I would never be able to retain new information. I would never be able to go to school to learn new things. I would always have trouble with memory, and my speech would remain slurred or slower. I would have trouble, grabbing thoughts and completing sentences and different things like that. And at first I did have trouble in those areas, to the point of depression practically, because I'm like, I should be able to do these things. In my mind, I can do them. I was just able to do them yesterday.
Right.
So it was very hard to adjust and accept the limitations. And so in my mind and in my heart, I'm like, I know I can do this. I know you can help me to do this. I can't on my own, but it doesn't matter what the doctors say. I know you can help me do this. I know you can. I know there's still more in me to do. And he answered that prayer. He definitely made it to where I've gone back to school 3 times. I'm back in school now. I've earned certifications. I'm 3 classes away from earning my degree in nonprofit management. Everything that they said I couldn't do or wouldn't be able to do, God has blessed me to be able to do.
Well, praise Him for that.
I'm very grateful to God for that. And during that process, as soon as I got released from the hospital, I did stroke during that process while I was in the hospital also, right after the surgery. So I did have to see the stroke team and things like that. But once I was released, COVID hit. And I had the recovery time for that particular procedure was 18 months. And I couldn't travel long distances until I was released from my neurologist. So I was already stuck here longer than I intended to be stuck, longer than I intended to stay. And then COVID hit, so I couldn't go anywhere anyway. Everything shut down. So we had to hire movers to take everything out of our apartment and bring it down here. And when we did that, we actually ended up losing almost everything. The movers stole, and they held our stuff hostage. They never brought it here. We had to hire an attorney. It was a huge mess. So that caused even more mental strain and stress and pressure. And I'm like, so at that time, I'm like, God, He's got to be angry with me. Like, I just went through this surgery. Now we're relocated and dislocated unintentionally. And now all of our stuff is gone too on top of that. So we have to start from scratch. I'm like, I don't understand what's going on. So it weighed very heavy on me. I went through a very dark period of time where I just felt hopeless and not understanding what is going on, why this. As COVID began to lighten up in some places, we're able to hire. I started putting in applications. I put in over 200 applications when I was able to start moving around better. And because I'm like, we need things, we need clothes, we need shoes. My girls and I, like, we need things. So I got to work. I didn't want to burden on my mom. I'm sorry?
I said, right, you need the essentials.
Yes. And I didn't want that burden on my mom or my family. So I'm like, I have to do something. But no one called me back for an interview, not one person. And in the places that I was applying to, I have experience in, I had a background in. There was no reason why. And so I'm like, God, now I really know you're angry with me. Like, I can't even get a job either. Good Lord. Is this punishment for something? Like, it was really heavy. But then my mom came to me one day and she was like, well, Bridgett, since nobody is calling and nobody's really hiring, why don't you just open a salon here in the house? And I'm like, oh, Mom, I don't want to do that. I don't want to put you out. That's an inconvenience. I don't want strangers coming in your home. And she was like, well, the HOA won't mind because it's just the neighborhood, but at least it'll help you make a few dollars. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I really don't want to do that. The next thing you know, she had ordered a nail desk. There was racks coming in to go on the wall for the polishes, and the acrylics were coming. I'm like, okay, I guess we're gonna open this salon then.
You're gonna do this.
You're gonna do this. And she was like, Bridgett, I don't want to hear nothing about you. Don't want to put me out. I wouldn't be doing this if God didn't place it on my heart. And so I'm like, okay, well, I can't argue with that part, right? So we get everything set up, and then my very first client. It's amazing the way he does things. But my very first client, she was an 82-year-old lady. She's so sweet. I had been doing her nails for about 8 months. After my first time doing her nails, I was doing her nails for about 8 months. And one day she asked me if she could schedule an appointment for her husband to get a pedicure. And I'm like, I don't do feet. So I told her, no, ma'am, I don't do feet. I only do nails. I had won different little awards, for this and that in the nail care industry with design and art. So I'm like, I'll stick with that's my lane. I'm gonna stay in my lane.
Right.
And I had said that for years because I also did nails. I helped with my husband's family with the nail salon, and I did nails for years in Kansas City too for a little while when I left the corporate world. So I'm like, I'll do that. But as soon as I told her that I don't do feet, for the first time ever, I felt incredibly convicted. And I heard so clearly, if Jesus Christ can get down and wash the disciples' feet, who do you think you are, little girl? And I'm like, oh, Jesus, this is like my daddy talking to me. My heart started pounding, like my palms got sweaty and everything. Like it was really a feeling. It was a real experience. And I'm like, ooh, okay. And so I apologized to her right then. And I said, I'm so sorry. I said, we can go ahead and get him scheduled. And she said, oh no, sweetie, you don't have to do that just for me. And I said, no, ma'am, I really do. I do have to do that. Please let me do that. And she said, oh, okay. So we get him scheduled. He comes in to get his feet done. And I look at his feet and I'm like, oh God, you love me. Okay. You really love me because these I can handle. They're in good shape. Like I can do this. Okay. And he just had like a little hammer toe and it looked like a little blood blister next to one of his toenails. And that's it. His feet were in immaculate condition. And so I do his pedicure and he's a wonderful, he was 84. So delightful. Oh my goodness. He's so delightful. And after I finished with his pedicure, about 3 hours later, I get a phone call. And it's a lady from a senior care facility. And she says, hi, I saw your information on Facebook. I don't even know what information she saw because there wasn't anything that I knew of on Facebook. But she was like, I saw your information on Facebook and are you mobile? And I said, yes, ma'am, I'm mobile. And she said, okay. She said, well, do you do pedicures? Whew, I said, yes, ma'am. And in my mind, I'm thinking, oh God, you got jokes. Because you seen these feet folks mighty fast, but okay, I can do this. So I tell her, yes, ma'am, I do feet. So I get there, I schedule the appointment. I get there to the senior care facility. And the very first lady to come into the room, she's not even walking. She's just scooting her feet. She's not even picking them up. She's scooting them. Mm. And she's not on the schedule. And she's sitting down and she says, I know I'm not on the schedule, but can I please get my feet done? Can I get a pedicure? And I tell her, yes, ma'am. I was already early and she was 30 minutes before my first person. So I tell her, yes, ma'am, you sure can. So she sits down and I get down on my knees.
This is you who says, I'm not doing feet. Even though you have these appointments, I'm imagining that you already have in your mindset that I'm going to do these 3 or 4 and I'm out of here.
Yes.
And this lady comes up and you just openly, willingly say, yes, ma'am, have a seat.
Yes. Because at this point, I'm already committed and my heart can't tell her no. I'm already committed. And so she sits down and I get down on my knees and I help her get her shoes off. And as I'm taking off one of her socks, it's stuck to her foot. And so I slowly roll and, peel the sock back. And once I get it off and I lift up her foot, I see She has an ulcer on the bottom of her foot, and it's the size of the palm of my hand. It's huge.
Oh my gosh.
And it's oozing pus and blood. But she has no clue because she can't feel it. She has neuropathy, but she doesn't know she's diabetic. So she doesn't even know what's going on right now. Because before I work on anyone, I have to ask them questions. Are you on any medications? Do you have any underlying health conditions that I need to be aware of? Things like that. And she told me no. She checked all the right boxes. I get her other sock off. I go to do her other sock, and it's not stuck, but it's not coming off as easy as you would think it should. It's a little crispy, so it needed to be washed anyway. So I get both of the socks off, and I noticed that the bottoms of both of her feet are covered in fecal matter.
Oh my gosh.
So she only has a wound under one foot, but both feet are covered in fecal matter. And in my mind, I'm thinking, how is this possible? Because I just saw you when I came in walking with your care provider to go get ready for the day. She had on her pajamas still and her robe. But when she came in to get her feet done, she was dressed and she was with her care provider. So I'm trying to understand, how is this the case? Well, as a nail tech, that's outside of my scope of practice. I can't work on anyone who has an open wound or anything like that, right? But as a decent human being, the very least I can do is get a washcloth with some soap and water and at least clean around the wound and wipe the bottoms of her feet, and then let the staff know that, she needed care. So that's what I did. She leaves. I let the staff know, they come get her. And the next lady to come, she's not on the list either. And she's in a wheelchair. And so she's rolling herself into the room, and she's practically in tears. And she's kind of angry a little bit too. She's real snappy, but she's also kind of in tears. And she's like, my feet hurt so bad. Can you please just cut my toenails? Can you please just cut them? They hurt so bad. And I tell her, yes, ma'am, I can. Because, I didn't get to do a pedicure on the other lady. I still had time. So yes, ma'am. I get down on my knees for her, and I take off her shoes, and she's like, I can do it myself. So she takes her shoes off, and I go for her sock. I can do it. So she tries to do her sock, but it gets stuck. So I help her with the rest of her sock. And it looks like, as soon as I get her sock off, it literally looks like sand from the beach that is just falling on the floor. It's a pile of, looks like sand, but it's all dead, dry skin.
Oh my goodness.
And the bottoms of her feet have these deep fissures and cracks in her heels and in her feet, and her feet are so dry. I'm like, I know they hurt. And when I look at her toenails, which I'm supposed to be cutting for her, right, she doesn't have any toenails. They're all fungal and they're ground up. They're practically not there anyway. Okay. And so when your feet are in that condition as a nail tech, that's outside of our scope of practice. So we would have to refer that person to a podiatrist, right? But as a decent human being, because no podiatrist is going to come right now today, and she's suffering right now today. So just as a decent person, not using my nail tech certification, I get a nail file, and I just file the free edge of each nail so that the little sharp pieces that are sticking out will quit catching her sock. Gotcha. And then the tops of her nails had grown upward so high that it was hitting the top of her shoe. So I just filed over the top to bring it down some, so the pressure could be relieved off the top of her toes. Okay. That's it. That's all I did. No pedicure, no anything else. But she rolled away literally in tears, but this time of relief. And I'm like, I didn't do anything.
But you did so much. Just those short movements, you did so much.
That little bit. And I'm just like, wow, okay. And it really did touch me. It really did touch my heart, because I'm like, that little bit helped her get that much relief to the point where she's almost in tears. So to me, that was a blessing. So I'm no longer looking at it as I don't do feet. In this moment, right, I'm just being, let me help in any way I can, because I feel sorry for your suffering. I can't stand.
Now you're in there. I'm committed to this thing wholeheartedly, 100%.
Yes. So she leaves, and the next lady to come in, she is on the schedule, and she sits down, and I'm trying to get her shoes off, and her feet are huge. They're swollen, and her feet are barely fitting in the shoes. So I get her shoes off, and as I get ready to pick her foot up, just to look at it, just to elevate it so I can see it, my thumb sinks into the top of her foot. And so she has severe pitted edema, right? The worst case I've ever seen in person anyway. And that print never left. when my thumbprint went in, it didn't go anywhere. So I tried to just very gently just kind of massage it out, just kind of rub it just a little bit to help it, the circulation and all of that. So it came up a little bit, not completely. And again, I'm not certified, licensed, trained, or educated yet, right? At this point. So I asked her again, are you sure you don't have, you don't have any heart condition, or you're not on any medication for your heart or diabetes or anything? And she says, no, ma'am. And in my mind, I'm thinking, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a medical professional at this time. And so in my mind, I'm thinking, well, you got something going on for this to be like this. So I let the staff know, and they go ahead and tend to her. I washed her feet still, just not hanging down in a puddle, a bucket of water, because I was nervous about that. Right. So I just used soap and water and washed her feet for her and moisturized her feet for her, because they were a little dry also. And then I let the staff know. So that way I'm not doing anything outside, because I don't want to make anything worse, but I want to help how I can. So every person that came in, there was something that was going on with them. So as I'm washing her feet with just a towel and some soap and water, I hear so clearly, don't forget about the homeless. Don't forget about the poor. Don't forget about the needy. Don't forget about the orphan. Don't forget about the widowed. And I'm hearing all this, and I'm thinking in my mind, how am I supposed to help them? Like, I don't even have the heart to charge these ladies right here for what I'm doing. Like, how do I help them? They only have $50 left over at the end of the month after paying to stay where they are and get their care. And so I'm like, how do I do that? And that's when the nonprofit was placed on my heart. And I'm like, I don't even know how to run a nonprofit. I don't know how to start a nonprofit. I don't know what I would call it. I don't know anything. So now I'm really scared. And I'm like, I don't know, is this me? Is this me talking? Is this you guys? Because nonprofit never crossed my mind in any way. I was trying to build a for-profit actually at that time. Right. And it was for me so that I could make money. It had nothing to do with God. It was about Bridgett. Right. But evidently he had other plans.
He had bigger plans.
He had other plans. So anyhow, after I work with these ladies and I hear this in my inner man, and so I go back and read the scripture that I was convicted over, that convicted me in the first place. In John 13:15, where Christ tells the disciples, after he washes their feet, now go and do as I have done to you. And that resonated. So it was like those words jumped out of the page.
Like that literally just gave me chills.
Well, it gave me that when I experienced that part, right? Those words jumped out. And so I'm like, well, obviously that's the name. Okay. Well, this is not me. So I know this is you, because I don't even want to do feet. So I know this is not me, because I would walk away right now if I could. But I humbled, I obeyed, I surrendered in those moments. And I'm grateful for that, because it led to where we are, right now today. The desire was to serve him. When I was able to see, so after those three ladies, that made me go back to school, right? Because I couldn't help them, but I wanted to. So I'm like, well, what can I do to further my certification and my education to be able to help, or my training? So I went back to school and I got my certification as advanced nail tech first, and then an advanced medical nail tech. And then I got my instructor certification. And then I went back to school and got certified as a podiatric medical assistant, so that I could have all the tools that I needed to be able to actually help, right? I don't just want to see an issue. I want to be able to help.
Tell us, what is the difference between a certified nail tech and a medically certified nail tech?
So a regular nail tech, or a certified nail tech, or licensed nail tech, is when you go through your regular state board training and you learn how to do acrylics, and you learn how to do sanitation and things like that. You learn how to do basic pedicures, how to polish, those type of things, and you're licensed through your state, right?
Okay.
A medical nail tech is someone who has been trained on hyper sanitation, right? Being very sanitary, making sure everything stays sterile, because now you get into learning about the different diseases and infections that you pass in the nail salon from client to client, and you don't even know that you're doing it, because we're not properly equipped to go out and serve the community without spreading infection and disease. We're just not, and we don't know any better, because the nail industry and the podiatry industry has always been separated, right? They're two different industries. But the truth of the matter is, they really should be working hand in hand. They really should be working together. Most podiatry offices are filled with individuals who went to the nail salon and they walked away with fungal toenails,
Oh my.
or they walked away with some type of athlete's foot, or they walked away with some type of an infection, an ingrown toenail that a nail tech tried to remove, and now they have a wound and they're diabetic and that wound won't heal. So now I just lost my toe because I went to go get a pedicure.
Okay.
Right. And it happens every day. You wouldn't believe how common that is.
So I'm going to ask a question because
Yes.
I mean, and it may be something that, sounds a little bit far-fetched, but if you're a nail tech, I mean, I understand that they're fingernails and they're toenails, but because they're two separate spaces, as you're indicating, why would a manicurist be able to do pedicures?
Because we're trained to do them because they're still nails.
Okay.
So we're trained, and see, we're trained, nail techs are trained cosmetically. We're trained on the cosmetic side of care. Even with the nails, we're not trained to work on, if someone has cuts or nicks on their fingernails, or they have a rash around their cuticle, or they have, warts or blisters or something on their hands, we're not supposed to do their hands. We're supposed to make sure that they've been seen by a doctor first, and then they need to come in with a letter of approval that it's okay to be serviced.
Okay.
That whatever's going on with their hands or their skin is not anything that can be spread, nor is it anything that the nail tech can do to worsen that condition or that situation, right?
Okay.
But the hands and the feet, it's all about cosmetics. We're not trained on the medical side of anything, only on cosmetics. So look good, outer appearance.
Okay.
But we are taught only work on intact skin. So that means if I'm working on you, you cannot have a cut. If you have a cut, we need to address that, get that, you need a Band-Aid over that or whatever. I don't need to touch that. Nothing needs to go near that or anything until that is properly covered up and addressed. If you have a rash around your cuticles and they're inflamed, I shouldn't be putting acrylic on your nails when your cuticles are already inflamed, because people are allergic to the chemicals in those things. But if the nail tech doesn't apply that part of their teaching and training, what are we doing? We're making situations, we're creating cases that don't have to be there if we would just apply our teaching when it comes to that, right? Our training.
I mean, it seems like it's such common sense things that we as patrons of these facilities, right, should know. But
Yes.
I'm sure a lot of people don't. I remember when I used to get my nails done, I bit my nails down to the quick. So, it was always irritated, inflamed. But when I went into the, manicures to get my nails done, they never turned me away. I got nails. I got
They shouldn't. They should allow it to grow out some first, just a little bit, in order to help, or wait till it's not inflamed. When there's no inflammation and there's no open wounds, then I can do your nails. And it's okay according to my training. Most people, when they go into the salon, even if the salon asks them or turns them down, they're going to have a fit, because most people, they're not going to tell you. If you have an open wound, I don't know if you have any type of infection or disease or sickness that you could pass to me or the other people here.
Right.
The next person that's coming behind you. And if you don't reveal that to me, how do I know? You can lie to me. You can tell me that you don't have anything. So I should not be working on your open wound fingernails, so that I don't pass any bloodborne pathogens to the next person that sits in this chair.
Wow.
But I want that dollar. So I'm going to do your nails anyway. And I'm not going to mention to you that I should not be doing this, because I don't want to care that I shouldn't be doing it. That's how it is. That's the industry mindset. And it needs to change, because we can reduce the spread of so many things if we work together. The two industries should be working together. That's just rock bottom line. When it comes to disinfecting implements, when you go to the little blue stuff, the blue liquid in the container, and they rinse and scrub their stuff and drop it in the blue stuff, right? And then they take it out and dry it off and rinse, and then that's good. But no, it's not. But that's what we're trained to believe as nail techs. That's how we're taught. But that's not sterilizing anything. Barbicide is sold and advertised as a disinfectant.
Stop. Stop.
Don't get me started. I am very passionate about this stuff. The more I learned, I was like, oh no, we need to fix this. Huh?
Are you kidding me right now?
No, I'm so serious. I am so serious. I was mind blown too.
Okay. All right.
Mhm.
Go ahead.
Okay. So Barbicide is a detergent, but it is
That's not
advertised
disinfecting.
as a
Yeah.
disinfectant. And it says that it kills tuberculosides and it kills this and it kills that, but that's not true. It has contents that could kill those things, but it doesn't have enough of it. And when you dilute it, because you don't use it as it is, you have to dilute it. So it already in its concentrated form doesn't have enough of everything, nor does it have everything it needs in order to be considered a disinfectant. But
You
on
need to
top of
start
that,
going to
you
the
have to
barber
use
shop.
it diluted. So now you're really not doing anything. You did just some bubbles and some suds. That's what you have. So every cosmetology board in the country, what does every salon have? A
That do
barbicide.
herbicide. Yeah.
Exactly. There's only 3 states in this entire country that enforce autoclaves to be used for salons to actually disinfect and sterilize those implements and those tools that they're using person after person after person. Every board should and needs to require that, but not every board does. Only 3 in the whole country, 3
And
states:
what states are those?
Texas, Tennessee, and I don't want to lie to you because I can't remember the third one.
It's
There's 3.
not North Carolina.
I don't think so.
Holy shit.
There's only
Okay.
3.
All right.
So these are things that if you don't know what you don't know,
Right.
right? And I wouldn't even know this had God not placed it on my heart to go down the path that I went down in order for me to go back to school because I wanted to help these people. And then I learned that we're causing a lot of the issues. So I've been the cause of some of these issues. And
Right.
I don't want to be the cause of any of those issues. I want to be the solution to some of those issues.
Now, you also told me that you were telling me that the podiatry, like you have to have a pre-existing condition in
Yes,
order
for
to see
insurance.
a podiatrist,
Okay.
and that
So
only 1 foot at a time can be addressed.
that is
Can
correct.
you talk a little bit more about that?
Yes, absolutely. So Medicaid, for example, or Medicare, um, if you have an underlying condition like diabetes and you need to have routine foot care, or maybe you're pre-diabetic, but you need to have routine foot care. If you don't have an additional underlying condition, then routine podiatry care is not covered under insurance. So we all know that diabetics need regular foot care
Right.
because once the neuropathy kicks in, they can't feel. Oftentimes, especially with seniors, they can't reach or see the bottoms of their feet to know if there's a
Mobility
wound, like
issues.
that lady example. Yes, absolutely. So insurance doesn't cover that unless there is an additional underlying condition like heart failure or some form of heart disease
So,
and
okay,
diabetes.
how does this additional um, medical issue relate to the foot care? Because if I have heart disease, is that doing anything to my feet?
Yes.
Okay.
So heart disease, foot care is imperative for heart disease also because heart disease also causes neuropathy, the same way diabetes causes neuropathy.
Okay. So it has to be
So,
something that's going to affect the feet, not just
mhm,
some random
mhm,
medical issue,
correct,
but it has to be something that's medically affecting the feet as well, or could potentially affect the feet.
correct,
Gotcha.
correct.
Okay. That makes
But
more sense.
but the issue is if you're diabetic, you don't need to have any other
Right.
underlying anything. That should be
Because we
more than
know.
enough. That
Right.
should be more than enough for insurance to cover your routine foot care. So insurance will cover if you have an underlying condition, additional condition, they'll cover your foot care, but they cover 1 foot at a time.
What
So
sense does that make?
it makes none. So if I come in today and I get my toenails trimmed in the podiatrist office, I will get that foot done this month. And then in 90 days or 60 days, whatever the insurance requires, I can come back and I'll get the other foot done. And then in 90 days or 60 days, whatever that plan is, I go back to that other foot. And then we just rotate feet like that.
How does that make sense?
It doesn't. But the issue, so that issue with the senior care home that I was describing,
Mhm.
I thought that was, at first, I thought that was a localized problem, right? It's just for this location. But I started doing research and doing surveys, and I found out that this is a problem across the board in all the nursing homes. But nursing homes have podiatrists that come in. So I still couldn't understand that, right? Well, then I found out the issue with insurance. So it's a systemic problem. It's not just, oh, they're not getting the care they need. The podiatry board and the medical board are governed by two different boards. There's two different governing boards here. Okay. Podiatrists are considered doctors of holistic medicine. And then the other type of doctor is considered a medical doctor. They're two different types of doctors, so they have two different governing boards. A podiatrist, when they look at your feet, they're looking at your feet and how it's affecting your entire body. So if a podiatrist looks at your feet and they can see the early signs of diabetes, then they can get you referred to the proper care to get early intervention, right?
Okay.
So they're holistic doctors. They're not just, oh, you come in and I'm gonna look at your feet and I'm only concerned about your feet. No, I'm looking at your feet.
We as humans don't go to a podiatrist first. We go to a medical doctor, which I would have assumed that a podiatrist was underneath that.
But they're not.
But we would go to our GP or whomever first. And if they're not looking at our feet.
Correct. It is incredibly
crazy.
Yes, it makes it seems so small, especially if you're on the outside looking in, but it's really a big deal. It really is an issue that needs light shed on it. You know, we're not just, even though we're a faith-based organization, we really are trying to meet a real need. You know, It's not just God cares about our spirit, but he also cares about our physical body too, right? When Christ was here, he healed the spirit, the soul, but he also healed the body. He went out and healed the body physically. So he cares about that too. When we address people, when we see a need, we want to get to the bottom of the issue so we can help them out of that circumstance that they're in right now. How do we help you into a better quality of life? Me washing your feet is not going to get you into a better quality of life.
Right.
If I come over and cut your toenails, you'll feel better for the next week, but all your other issues are still there and your foot problems are going to come back unless we address them on the root level, at the root of the cause, the problem. So it's a systemic issue that widely needs to be addressed. And because foot care is not covered, there's so much money, there's billions upon billions of dollars being spent on amputations that could be avoided. Because limb loss often leads to life loss. It doesn't usually, it keeps growing. It stacks on top of each other. It's one limb after the other, and it grows and grows and grows. And it severely decreases the quality of life for those that are experiencing that.
And we talked about too that, you know, once you go into a nursing home, that's, pretty much a death certificate waiting to happen. So if you go into a nursing home just because your family can't afford to physically take care of you themselves, and then if you're running into these issues that you have seen with the foot issues and it's not being addressed, then you have to go get a limb amputated. It's just like, it's a avalanche.
It's a vicious cycle. It's really bad. And then the care staff in these facilities, these are nurses in the medical side of things, not on the podiatric or holistic side. So they're not trained to tend to the feet. And most people, it's sad to say, but in most cases, if I'm not trained and it's not in my job description and I don't like feet, I'm not going to mess with your feet. Somebody else has to handle that. That's the mindset.
That takes me back to, you were saying about I think it was the first woman that came to see you, and you were having a hard time getting her socks off, and her socks were she had stepped through some fecal matter.
Right.
But you said you had just seen her with her care provider and she got dressed. So at what point are you dressing this woman and you don't see her that feet? Like that.
So there's some areas to this. So again, you have to remember, it takes compassion to be willing to serve in that capacity. You have to be humble enough to get down and wipe the poo off of someone's feet, right? Especially if you're not required to. A lot of people are not just going to do that. And if I clean your feet and I see there's something wrong with your feet, they still can't do anything about it. And they have to be careful. They don't want to get in trouble with their license and their certification because they're operating outside of their practice, outside of what they're, what they're trained to do. So it's a sticky situation. It's really tough. It's a sticky situation. And there is a solution, but it takes awareness. It takes help. It takes involvement.
So let me ask you this. When you went to let the front desk or whomever know, the nurse practitioner, whomever was on site, that this lady is having these type of issues that I've seen, she's going to need some additional help. What happens at that point? You've done your due diligence.
They take down they take the information down that I'm saying, and they send her off. She goes off. I don't know what they do from there.
Right.
I don't know how that goes from there, but I do know that at least someone is made aware. I don't know what happened after that. Okay. I don't know what happened after that. And sadly, those cases are everywhere.
Right.
So now they did tell me that they do have a podiatrist, and I know that they do have a podiatrist that comes to that location, so they will make sure that she is seen by a podiatrist. If you don't tell them, then they don't know, and they're not looking at the feet. They're not trained to look at the feet.
Is that something that, if we have an elder, our parents, grandparents, or whomever, we're responsible for our seniors now. Mm-hmm. And we are not physically able to take care of them as we're looking for facilities potentially to place them in. Is that something that, absolutely sounds like it should be something that we're looking for to ensure that they have a podiatrist that comes out or is on staff or something of that nature?
They usually, every one of them pretty much have podiatrists that come out. They have to, because insurance does cover podiatry.
Okay.
But it only covers with these issues and these underlying conditions. So for the whole rest of the population in there, they're underinsured because insurance is not going to cover them to be seen by the podiatrist before it gets this bad.
Okay.
So right. There needs to be early intervention. There needs to be someone there who's washing their. A lot of the facilities have salons that come in, but the people have to pay. And the problem with in the nail techs, they have to make a living. They have to earn a living. They're working. They're providing a service. I get that. But the people living in those homes, a lot of times they just don't have the money to pay for someone to routinely look at their feet for them. They're not there with family members to look at their feet for them. Sometimes there's they can. We teach them to use mirrors. The long handle mirrors, so they can look under the bottom of their feet because they can't lift them up. Things like that. But until they're educated and until they have the support system they need, they don't know. Okay. So they're suffering because of lack of knowledge, because of lack of awareness and lack of support.
Okay. So we're coming up to the point that we need to start wrapping this up, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But you're doing this service is free because you're a nonprofit. So everything, the education piece, the tools that you're presenting them, everything that you're using, I think you told me everything was holistic or organic because of the nature of the wounds and things of that nature.
Correct.
How are you able to sustain this? What do you need?
God is really amazing. So far, I have a wonderful support system as far as my family goes. When I conveyed that, what I told you all today about how God led me through this process, my mom, obviously she's been there every step of the way. So she's been incredibly supportive. She gives her contribution anyway, because as far as she's concerned, I'm serving God with this money. It's not mine anyway. So she contributes greatly. I still do nails on the side. I'm not supposed to. That it causes the brain damage to spread or worsen. So I'm not supposed to inhale those chemicals and things like that. So I don't do it full time, but I do it on the side to help fund the organization. Okay. I work part-time with another nonprofit organization as their outreach coordinator in order to help fund and take care of our needs, but also to help fund the organization. And the things that we're providing, all of the material is things that, either myself or my daughter or, some volunteer has helped us to build and establish. It's really just been volunteers and heart and God just opening doors and somehow making things happen because he's amazing like that. So I can't even tell you. I don't get any pay, by the way. I work full time. I am the only full-time employee with this organization. Of course, we have a board and we have volunteers, but I am full time. and I don't receive 1 red cent for any of the volunteer work I do out in the community where I'm actually serving the people with their feet. Nor do I get paid for speaking engagements. I don't get paid for building the organization or running it as the executive director. It is completely my service to God. It's completely me surrendering and giving my whole self to whatever it is that he's building and whatever it is that he's doing, because I don't know. I'm just the vessel. I just want to steward it well. So he's making the provisions and I'm just stewarding. It's not even mine. So
Okay.
that's how it's been.
And on your website, you have a space for people to make donations?
Yes, we do have a donation page. Like I said, we kind of do what we can afford, and we had the website that we got initially is what we can afford. And so we are having problems with the donation page, ironically, just 2 days before this interview.
Wow.
So we have been going back and forth with the website people to get that issue fixed. Every time we get ready, every time someone expresses an interest in contributing any amount, the website, it never fails. It never fails. And I'm like, goodness gracious. But I know that when we received the funding, we were just awarded our first contribution from a group of attorneys that are awarding us a check on the 13th. So that is our first sponsorship or large donation amount that we'll be able to use towards operating expenses, like fixing that donation page and keeping it fixed, among other things. So far, that's how we've been pressing our way through, and he's been working it out.
What's your website address?
It is doasIhavedone.org.
Okay. When we finish, just go into the meeting and add that in there so that people can go and visit the website.
Absolutely.
And lastly, I just want to talk about your legacy. Where do you see this going? I know you've talked about, the desire to help, but did succumbing to that. And now what does the evolution of Do As I Have Done look like? What is the legacy for you, Bridgett?
That is a big question. I know the vision that he gave me. I know what he showed me when he first placed this whole thing on my heart. It is huge. It is way greater than I am. It's nothing that one person can accomplish. It's truly going to take anyone who loves him. It's going to take all of us, all of his believers, all of us. It's going to take us all. But the vision that he gave me was that we wouldn't just be in this city. We're starting here, but we're coming as a collective. We're coming, and when we bring Do As I Have Done, then we bring a coalition of nonprofits in your city coming together to work together to be able to actually restore the city to the community to where it should be. We're also coming with a prayer team. Like, we're coming to truly transform wherever we are. Wherever he sends us, he's sending us to transform. He's sending us to reach out. We know what times we're living in. It's that real. The reverence for God has been lost a lot. I think a lot of times we forget how holy he really is and how real the end times are and how close we are to that time. So it's a matter of, I know Do As I Have Done is meant to go out and serve him in that capacity. It's meant to go out and draw people unto him. That is the vision. That is the purpose. And it's not just here in Houston. It's not just in the United States. Someday it'll be across the globe. Wherever he sends it, that is where it goes. We are just the stewards. I am just the steward of what he's building.
I told you, I am here for you. And this was the first way that I thought that I could kind of help advance what it is that you're doing. If you need anything, I've given you my information, just let me know. But it is my hope that at the end of this, that people are able to reach out to you and offer some semblance of support, whether it's monetary or them volunteering or, anything, just kindness, words.
Absolutely.
So I hope that this conversation inspires other people to reach out to you personally and to Do As I Have Done. I pray that you are able to get the website. If anyone is listening who has website background and would like to donate some time or offer some type of assistance, please reach out to Bridgett as well. Outside of that, is there anything else that you'd like to say, or just
there's one piece that I would like to close or walk away with or leave you with. We work a lot with the homeless community, and I want people to understand that the very first time that I washed a homeless person's feet, right? I knelt down. At first, I asked that person, is it okay if I serve you by washing your feet? And that individual told me, yes, I can. So I got all my little stuff together and I got down on the ground and, I'm washing this person's feet, and immediately my heart starts pounding and I start sweating and I'm immediately humbled. I get teary eyed and all this. And it's like, I'm immediately reminded of the scripture that says, what you do for the least of these, you do for me. So every time, not just myself, I pray that anyone who volunteers to come out and wash feet, I pray that you recognize who God is in your life, what he has done for you, how much you owe him, how much, if you love him for real, there's no reason to be prideful. Volunteer to come out and wash feet with your whole heart. Every time I'm washing feet, I know that I'm washing my Savior's feet. That's what's in my mind. That's what's in my heart. That's what I'm thinking about when I'm praying and when I'm washing and when I'm serving. My desire is to be like him. That's what we're supposed to desire. So my desire is to carry out what he said. Do as I have done to you. Okay, I'm going to carry out what you said to the best of my ability, with all the gifts and talents that he's placed inside of me and whoever else he has to come work with the organization. Those gifts and talents are meant to serve him. So anyone who was moved to come and volunteer, just please recognize that if you're coming to volunteer to wash feet, remember what you're doing and who you're doing it for and who you're doing it to. Your soul will be blessed in the process. We're not just blessing the people we're serving, we're being blessed too. I am humbled every time I go out to do this service. My spirit is blessed. My spirit man is blessed every time we go out to serve in that capacity. So I'm praying for volunteers that are real and that are genuine and that genuinely want to help, people. I can train you. We do 1 hour training before you go out into the community and provide those services so that you know how to properly wash feet and what to look for. So, I can't do you, but she can, or whatever. But I think that's what I would like to end with. Just remember what we're doing and who we're doing it for.
That's a good takeaway. Thank you so much. Again, Bridgett's website is doasihave.org. If you feel so compelled, please reach out, or if you can, donate to help advance this initiative. And again, Bridgett, I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you.
I saw your conversation. I saw a post that you made, or a comment that you made on a post from
Save a Leg, Save a Life.
Yes, Save a Leg, Save a Life. And I don't know, it wasn't anything spectacular. It was just something about what you said appealed to me and made me reach out to you. And I'm so glad that I did.
I'm glad you did too. I'm so grateful. Thank you. You're thanking me, but I thank you. I owe you the thanks. So thank you very much.
Again, thank you so much for your time today. Thank you for the education. And I will say, be blessed.
And you do the same. Thank you so much.